So Chelsea kick off their Carabao Cup campaign away at Lincoln on Tuesday night, and we are hoping that we can get some cheer back around Chelsea after a pretty difficult week with 2 defeats against Bayern Munich and of course the disaster on Saturday night at Old Trafford against Manchester United, and hopefully start to turn the tide and get Chelsea back on track as we head towards the end of this kind of block of games before the next international break. It feels like a big period, a big 2 weeks for Chelsea. It really does. And yes, it sounds very hyperbolic. It sounds very Sky Sport / Talk Sport. You know, we are only in September. But I do think tone, mood, and just the psychological impact for a team across the course of a season is important, even in small batches of games. And I think it's very important that Chelsea try and resurrect really the good feeling and momentum we had heading into this season. Now, I don't think really that can be resurrected in this game because it's a little bit of a strange one. Because in some ways, Maresca, as we'll get into with his press conference, has to prioritise other things. Yes, I'm not saying he doesn't prioritise a cup competition, but with injury concerns piling up, there's a need for rotation. And with that rotation, as we saw with Man United in one of the last rounds, brings itself, some risk. But I do think Chelsea simply have to be rotating the squad quite heavily on Tuesday night, and hopefully, you'd suspect, should get the job done and progress into the next round of the League Cup. This is my team selector, my preview. We're going to look at the Maresca press conference. We're going to look a little bit at Lincoln. Then I'm going to give you my predicted 11 for this game. Please do give me your thoughts on the game and also just anything around Chelsea. We may do another news show tomorrow morning before the game on Tuesday evening to kind of catch up with any recent news. The press conference was a little bit downbeat, and I think obviously post a defeat like Man United, it was always going to be. I think mainly because of the injury concerns that seem to be piling up pretty much every week at the moment. So it's not just the fact that Palmer limped off and Maresca even uttered the word surgery when it came to Cole Palmer. Like, it's the first time the medical team have even mentioned the possibility of surgery on this groin issue. A groin issue that I think Simon Phillips reported on this on Saturday. It's something that Cole Palmer has been dealing with for a very long period of time, and Maresca used the phrase day to day at the moment in terms of managing Cole Palmer. Apparently, João Pedro and Moises Caicedo also have issues, and Enzo Maresca then said about, resting Caicedo, and I can't really do it, which I kind of contest. Yes, Dario Asugo is injured, but he does have other options that he could play in that area, especially for this game. But I understand the concern at the moment. In this game, we have no Mott Guiu, not because he's injured, because he's cup-tied. And we knew that when we brought him back from Sunderland. So that would have been a very obvious starter up top for Enzo Maresca to rest João Pedro. And because you come into this game off the back of a damaging defeat on Saturday, losing to Bayern Munich, not beating Brentford, the mood has turned a bit negative. You maybe don't quite have the room and kind of the shrug of the shoulders from everyone. Oh, you'll just play your second team and everything will be fine. There is going to be some anxiety going into this game, right? Because Chelsea need to win this game. They need to get back on track. They need to start putting some wins up on the board before the October international break. Let's have a look at Lincoln. League One, they're doing pretty well in League One. I mean, it wasn't that long ago Lincoln were still in non-league after dropping down from the Football League. Third in League One, they've won 3 of their last 5 games. Top goal scorer James Collins. Michael Skubala is their head coach. They play a kind of a traditional classic 4-4-2, which is a lovely throwback that I'm sure Louis Benavente will be very happy about for this game. It's actually the first meeting between Chelsea and Lincoln since 1911, which is pretty mad. So not that long after Chelsea were formed. So it's been a very, very long time for Chelsea to face Lincoln. I feel with this kind of game, like Chelsea have been through many of these games before. We usually face a team below the Championship at kind of Stamford Bridge. It's quite rare, actually. We get an away game to a team in the Championship, League 1, League 2. And I think there's some excitement about that, especially if you're going to the game, which I know some people are. And, Chelsea going there, hopefully being able to see some fresh faces, young faces, fringe players get their opportunity. But as we did see with Grimsby, I know it's a very easy example, but it's one that you can kind of look at and go like, this is an example of when your team does rotate, when it isn't psychologically ready for the game. And that's something that I've brought up about Chelsea's game so far this season. They do not look prepared, and they have not looked prepared, or at least ready for a game. I have not seen Chelsea start a game other than Bayern Munich where I feel the team is at the right intensity level, looks to be commanding, looks to go out there and be the kind of the protagonist in the game and really take it by the scruff of the neck. This is the sort of game that has to be. And yes, Lincoln, like any lower league team, when they come up against Chelsea or come up against a Premier League team, are going to kind of do things that you suspect. They're going to use set pieces, they're going to use physicality, they're going to use unorthodox ways and very direct ways to try and unsettle Chelsea in a smaller ground. We know how these type of games go, but it's even if you do face some of those things early on, it's quite simply the quality has to shine through. It has to shine through pretty quickly, and for players to start getting the ball, passing it around, and that's when you suspect usually the quality of the Premier League team will come above that. But if you aren't ready for the game, if you're not taking it seriously enough, if you're not willing to confront that battle and overcome it, things can become very tricky. Because even a scenario when if Chelsea win this game like 1-0 and we win it, we're through to the next round, but we haven't won it convincingly. It's kind of like an England qualifier where you can't really win it because you're expected to win it. If you win it, yeah, you should be winning it. But if you don't win it convincingly, like the Conference League games last year, people start asking questions. So that makes it a little bit tricky. But I am excited to see certain players who I do think could play a major role and hopefully really do take their opportunity. And for some of these players, start to show a bit of quality and maybe push themselves closer to a Premier League starting 11. So let me give you my 11. Just from the off, I don't want to see Moises Caicedo playing any minutes in this game. We're obviously not going to see Cole Palmer in this game. There are players, João Pedro I think falls into the same category. I don't mind João Pedro being on the bench, and that's a break glass in case of emergency type of situation. Things would have had to have gone really bad if you're breaking that glass to bring him off the bench. He should not be playing because of the current injury situation. But it is quite awkward, right? So there are some players that you maybe thought could have maybe factored into this game, Mark Gu being one, but obviously can't happen. Philip Jorgensen in goal. Jorgensen did not look great at the weekend, but who else is going to play here? Gabstonina maybe as a third choice goalkeeper, but I suspect that Jorgensen starts this game with Rob Sanchez obviously suspended for this one. The back four, I think Malo Gusto will start this game. Malo Gusto is effectively kind of a first-team player. I mean, he kind of rotates quite freely with Reece James, but he plays a lot of first-team minutes. So he's one of those players I'm going to look at for this kind of game. You've got to be setting the standards. You've got to look composed. You've got to look mature. Cesar Azpilicueta used to take up these games yearly, right? He'd play Premier League games. He'd play Champions League games. But it always seemed like even when we'd mass rotate, Azpilicueta would remain in that team, even for like a League Cup third round against like a League 2 opposition, because he would give a level of professionalism and focus that you need. That's what I suspect from a player like Malo Gusto at this point. Even though he is a younger player, he's played a lot of football for Chelsea. Josh Achimpong in the back two. I mean, I'd be really disappointed if Josh ain't picking up any minutes here and not picking up a start. I mean, he really has to, and I think it's really unfair that we haven't seen more of him. You can make a case that both Josh Achimpong and Wesley Fofana is the back two. So then you give both Tosin Adarabioyo and Trevor Chalobah a rest because they've taken up a lot of minutes. I wouldn't mind. I was not happy. I don't think Fofana has looked that great, but I wouldn't mind Fofana playing in this game, and especially if it's Maresca's clear intent to get him back to match fitness pretty quickly, and he's playing Premier League minutes. I mean, why? Logically, if he's playing Premier League minutes against Man United, why can't he play Premier League minutes against, League Cup minutes against Lincoln? But I think Tosin will probably stay. It's kind of if you're going to keep one of them, I think it literally is a flip of a coin, like which one you keep. So I think Tosin maybe keeps his place here. Jarell Hato starting his second Chelsea game. I think we need to see a lot more from him. But I'm excited to see Jarell Hato develop this season. In central midfield, it would have been the perfect scenario a few weeks ago. Dario Asugo, his name's on the team sheet. Can't do that. We shouldn't be playing Moises Caicedo. Arguably, you could throw Enzo Fernandez in here, just in kind of, it sounds brutal, a little bit of punishment, but kind of like, you didn't play well at the weekend, you haven't played well so far, you've got to act as the captain in this game and show the levels required. A bit like what I was saying with Malo Gusto, right? One of those first team players that remains and proves themselves capable of leading a team. But I actually think Andre Santos should absolutely be starting this game because it's not a guarantee at the moment he's going to be starting any Premier League game. And I think Reggie Walsh, this is one of those ones that I'm going to go out on a limb just simply because of what Maresca has said about Reggie Walsh before. He seems to be really, really positive about Reggie Walsh and how much he likes him, how much he's been impressed by him. You know, sort of Cobham players and academy players who train with the first team pretty regularly around that environment. You know, he gave him a start and gave him minutes off the bench in the Conference League last year. So I do think if there's going to be kind of one surprise youngster who starts this game, I would put probably most my money, if I was betting on it, on Reggie Walsh in central midfield. So another chance for Reggie to potentially impress. Then you get into the attacking side of the team. Antwi, I think, impressed against Bayer Leverkusen. Schimweker has started the PL2 season wonderfully. And I think there is absolutely a desire to see him get minutes against Lincoln. Whether he starts, I'm not entirely sure. But from a profile point of view, it makes a lot more sense for him to start as a centre forward than someone else. I just can't see it personally. Tyreek George could start this game. I do think Buonanotte, Jamie Gittins and Alejandro Garnacho should probably all be starting this game. It's where you put them. You know, you're putting Gittins on the left, which he most likely plays. Garnacho maybe shifts to the right. It's not maybe his favourite position, but he could play there. You could put Garnacho as kind of the centre forward in this game. I wouldn't even mind seeing Esteval play. I mean, Esteval literally, he didn't play on Saturday. And there maybe is caution that players that you could be starting against Brighton, you kind of want to wrap in cotton wool and you don't want to risk them. But there also is an argument for me with Esteval that this kind of feels like a great playground for him to potentially, against weaker opposition, go out there, strut his stuff, score some brilliant goals or contribute to brilliant goals. I just wonder if Esteval, it's kind of one of those games because he didn't play at all really at the weekend. You filled him. I also wonder, you know, Pedro Neto, right? A player that also came off quite early on Saturday. Yes, he plays a lot of minutes. He's relied upon for a lot of minutes, but he's also an experienced player that, again, I would wonder if Maresca is kind of trying to balance out resting players, but also wanting to keep a level of first team experience in the team he's kind of playing around with. So, yeah, I mean, I'll go Esteval, Buonanotte, Gittins and Garnacho. I think if you're really, you know, desiring a centre forward, I don't know why you just don't play Shim here and give him the start, and then you can rotate with Tyreek George, hopefully, if things are going really well, and you don't have to look at Joao Pedro at all. So I'd like to see that, but my instinct is that he will probably, Antwi, Mecca, George, I think Tyreek George probably the more likely to start actually over Esteval. I think he would take the place of Esteval in my 11. So yeah, it's always difficult predicting these games, right? For a variety of reasons. Your 11 is kind of, it's very hard to get it right because it's hard to know what Maresca is thinking. What I would say is Maresca spent a lot of time in his press conference today talking about injuries and talking about his concern about not being able to rotate. This is a chance to rotate. If you don't do it, I think then you're going to lose a lot of sympathy, you know, because I think many people will turn around and go, well, you had a great opportunity in that game to rest a lot of your key players at a difficult period and you didn't. And what if those players are further exerted when they didn't need to? And that then has a natural knock-on effect to bigger games in the upcoming weeks. So I think Maresca absolutely has to do mass rotation in this game. You can't really avoid it. And what you've got to hope, and it sounds silly, but Chelsea's squad with the money invested should be absolutely capable of rotating basically all 11 and still comfortably winning this game. And if you disagree with that, then we got serious problems. We got serious problems about our squad management and squad building, right? Because, put simply, he should not feel that he has to throw in a majority of first teamers. But there may be some names that you expect to be benched, like Enzo Fernandez, Malo Gusto, Pedro Neto, that I wouldn't be too shocked if they find their way into the starting 11. But some of those players like Moises Caicedo, Reece James, don't really want to see starting this game because of injury concerns. That is my preview. Give me your predicted 11s in the comments below, and I'll see you again very, very soon. All the best.